Hey, everybody, and welcome. I'm going to try and do my best. My voice is a little weak today, but I'm going to try and do my best to get through our presentation today. This module number 3 is what are you waiting for? And I hope that in the process of sharing this material with you, it stimulates you to do some really deep digging. Over the last couple of weeks, we've talked about some of the things that are leading us up to these more, let's get our sleeves rolled up and let's dive into what it is that we're doing in our esoteric practice. So today, the first thing I want to share with everybody is, the question, why? Why are you drawn to inner alchemy? Why are you drawn to not just this course, but to actually doing the work? Because inner alchemy is not a particular tradition. It's not a path or practice, as many of you know, but rather an approach to understanding and engaging the esoteric in whatever way that presents itself to you. So in a somewhat crude definition, and I apologize for this, esotericism could probably be described as a Western form of spirituality that stresses the importance of the individual's effort to gain spiritual knowledge or gnosis, where humanity is confronted with the divine aspect of its existence. And I say Western because I don't necessarily believe that that in the East we would think in terms that the cultural difference is that we don't think in terms of esoteric because they don't see that delineation between esoteric and exoteric. So it's this is something that's much more Western in its approach. Now, each of us comes to the path of esotericism seeking one of four things. And that's what we're going to talk about in this presentation. We either seek meaning, we seek connection to our ancestors, connection to our tradition, to our heritage, purpose, or empowerment. And I think that when we look at this, that this might not be something that you've even considered. But when we look at this framework, it becomes a little clearer that one of these, if not many of these, four reasons, these four topics, are what we've been looking for in our esoteric path, or on our esoteric path. So let's talk about meaning. Esoteric spirituality is a search for meaning. It's a search for purpose in our lives. It can also involve seeking personal growth. The more that we understand about esotericism and the way the universe works, the better our grasp of life itself, of the cosmos is. It may be a religious experience for some or a belief in a supernatural realm. Spiritual seekers are those who follow a path of self discovery, which can be a lifelong path or one that's sought after just a short period of time as a result of a life changing event or a sort of an epiphany that we might have because of other events that took place in our lives. So, in the esoteric traditions, we are looking within that tradition, we're looking for meaning. We're looking for something bigger than what everything appears to be. And so for some of us, that may be the sole reason that we turn to esotericism. But another reason is connection. When we connect with our ancestors, we're connecting to a part of us that might otherwise have felt orphaned or untethered, that might have felt like it lacked roots, groundedness. So things that previously seemed odd or previously were confusing or seemed a little weird suddenly begin to make sense when we understand our ancestral tradition. It might be that we always had this kind of sense that we need to open the doors and open the windows, even in the wintertime. And our friends might think that that was weird. But when we look at this in terms of what it means from let's say, the Italian or Afro-Sicilian folk magic tradition, we can say, the reason I felt that that was so good to open these doors is this is part of the tradition of my ancestors. And maybe we saw our grandmothers or our aunts and uncles doing this. Maybe we saw other people, cousins doing this, or saw it on a television program, and it just felt right. And we decided to start doing that ourselves. But now we understand why. We appreciate the worldview of our ancestors. What's influenced the person that we are? What are all of the beliefs and the worldview and the way of moving through the world that we learned or gained or was passed down from our ancestors? And so then we can make adjustments in our own life for the purposes of saying, okay, so this was a little too superstitious for me. Science now understands such and such. Now I can incorporate quantum mechanics, for example, into my manifestation work. But it also gives us the opportunity, in no small part, by making this connection with our ancestors, to help them resolve generational trauma, so that not only are they then free from that traumatic experience, from that passed down trauma, but we're free as well. And so we're able to move into this next realm, which is discovering our purpose. That could impact every single aspect of who we are. It can nurture our mental health. It can nurture our physical and psychological and emotional satisfaction levels, and it can have a powerful impact on our way of moving forward. So when we understand our purpose, our mindset shifts. We begin to evaluate our priorities. We might look at our lifestyle, at our relationships, at our career, and say, this is or is not consistent with my worldview, with my purpose. And then we can make the adjustments we need to make so that everything we do becomes in greater alignment with that purpose. Purpose is the key that unlocks insight and wisdom, which are the path to personal power. So when we unlock that insight and wisdom by discovering our purpose and and making sure that's consistent with our worldview, then we're opening our ability to get better, more predictable results, outcomes from our spell work, from the way that we're eating, from the way that we're moving in the world. And the final piece of that is empowerment. So ultimately, inner alchemy is the science of spiritual living. You've heard me say that multiple times. It's the key to a more productive, a more effective, and a more joy-driven life, a life that's rooted in healing ourselves and those that we touch, in which we reclaim the powers that have lied dormant within us, powers that we may have forgotten over many lifetimes, powers that our ancestors had that we might not have understood, or they may not have understood. And so again, we unlock that generational trauma by reclaiming our power. This empowerment leads us to a place where we truly embrace the magic that we've been talking about in all of our courses as a way of moving through the world, not as some woo-woo counterculture religion or some gothic social club, or something that replaces the traumatic experiences we may have had in institutional religions, but a rootedness in our own personal power. And when you're rooted in that personal power, then if you seek out the fellowship of others like you, then it's perfectly acceptable for you, if it feels right, to connect with religious esotericists or secular esotericists, to become part of a collective of people, whether neo-pagan or not, just because these will be people who understand you, who understand the path that you're on. Now, the key to that is making sure that they respect the path that you're on. I wouldn't recommend getting involved in something where there's a dogma or a doctrine and you have to do it this way or you're not accepted, because then that's going to be counterproductive to your personal empowerment. I think that is one of the greatest problems in pop culture esotericism, is there are too many people whose egos want followers. Their egos want to manipulate and control people for their own personal profit. And that's why we created the Inner Alchemy Mystery School. That's why we've taught the classes that we've taught, and those classes will be available forever because there will always be new people who are reaching that point where they say something's wrong here. I need to do something different. So here's what your assignment is going to be over the next 2 weeks. I want you to imagine or make believe that this platform was suddenly going to disappear. You know, it's unrealistic to think the internet would stop, but maybe the platform goes out of business or something. And in 6 to 10 months, and you have a heads up, and you know that that's what's coming. And so all you have is, let's say 6 to 8 weeks. All you have is 6 to 8 weeks to ask all the questions that have gone unasked about esotericism and magic and witchcraft, and learn all the things that you want to learn in that 6 week period of time about living a more magical, more powerful life. What would you ask? What topics would you want to see covered? And these aren't hypothetical questions. I want you to really ask yourself, if you only knew you had 6 weeks left of asking all the questions, after that, you're on your own. What would the questions be that you would ask? What would the topics be that you want to explore in the next 6 to 8 weeks? How diligently would you focus your study? Would you do anything a little bit different? How diligently would you refine your practice? Would you be a little bit more consistent in that practice over that 6 to 8 weeks? And I want you to comment in the discussion tab of the course. Let me know what your thoughts are about that. And genuinely, I want to know what topics you would ask about, because that will help me make sure we're delivering the value that you expect, the value that you deserve within this course and in some of our other courses. So I hope that I haven't gone over. I have absolutely no idea. I say this every week. I try to keep these to 15, 20 minutes, but they usually go 25, 30 minutes. I'm really trying to make these bite-sized chunks so that it's no more of theory and lecture and more of, hey, here's a couple key points to think about. Now let's put it to work. And so this first step is, what are the things that you still want to know? And the reason that we want to identify those things you still want to know is because that will hold the key to why you're here in the first place. So I look forward to seeing everybody soon, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.